Indigenous Language, Identity, and Cultural Reclamation by Kira Winter. The role of language in cultural and personal identity. Language is fundamental to who we are. It shapes how we think, communicate, and understand the world around us. For Indigenous peoples, language is deeply connected to cultural survival. It preserves traditional knowledge, including stories, songs, ceremonies, and ways of living, sustainably on the land. It holds spiritual and sacred teachings that guide community values and beliefs. It maintains a unique worldview, reflecting how community interprets relationships with nature, ancestors, and each other. Language loss causes a profound disconnection. When a language disappears, so do the cultural practices, histories, and identities tied to it. Language revitalization efforts brings powerful benefits. They restore a sense of pride and belonging among community members, helps heal trauma caused by colonization, forced assimilation in residential schools, reinforces social ties, and promotes the lasting continuation of cultural practices for the future. I remember visiting my grandparents and hearing them speak our family's native language, which is German. Even though I don't speak it fluently, just hearing those words made me feel connected to my heritage and family history. It showed me how language is more than just words, it carries emotions, memories, and a sense of belonging. How Indigenous communities reclaim and revitalize their languages. Language schools and programs. Schools and community centers create immersive environments where Indigenous children our Indigenous languages are the primary means of communication, especially for children. Elders actively teach younger generations through storytelling, ceremonies, and language classes to pass on cultural knowledge. Communities develop apps, online dictionaries, and audio recordings and video lessons to make language learning accessible and engaging. For example, us using Engage in class. People record words, stories, and how the language works to keep it safe for the future. Celebrations and workshops bring people together to speak and enjoy the language. Indigenous groups push for official recognition of their language in schools, governments, and media to ensure protection and support. When I read about the Hawaiian language revival, I was inspired by how communities brought back their language to schools and everyday use. It made me realize how important it is to have elders involved and use technology to reach younger people, which helps keep the language alive in modern times. How did something I learned in this course challenge or deepen my understanding of Indigenous cultural survival? How this course changed my understanding of Indigenous cultural survival. Before this course, I didn't really think about what it means to survive as a culture. Now I see that it is about holding onto your identity, your language, your traditions, everything that makes a community who they are. Learning about colonization, residential schools, and how they were not just found in Canada was really emotional. It made me realize just how much was taken from Indigenous peoples, especially their languages, and how much they have fought to keep what's left. I now understand that bringing back a language isn't just about speaking again, it's about healing, rebuilding, and reconnecting with everything that was nearly lost. What really stayed with me is how strong Indigenous communities are. They're not just surviving, they're rising, rebuilding, and keeping their culture alive, not just for themselves, but for the next generations, which is real strength. In what ways can language reclamation contribute to healing and resistance? Healing from the past, bringing back Indigenous languages helps communities heal from harm caused by colonization in residential schools. It reconnects people to their culture, identity, and ancestors. Restoring pride and identity, like speaking your own language, builds confidence in the pride in who you are, helps people feel more connected to their roots. This is a form of resistance. Reviving a language that was once banned or discouraged is a powerful act of resistance. It pushes back against the idea that Indigenous culture should disappear. Passing culture to the next generation. Language keeps traditions, songs, teachings, and values alive, making sure culture is not lost but grows stronger. When I hear Indigenous youth speak or sing in their own language, it feels powerful. It shows that despite everything, their culture is still alive and thriving. That's what resistance and healing looks like, in my opinion. The role of language in cultural and personal identity. I only speak English, so I've never felt a strong connection to language as part of my identity. My background includes German heritage, but I don't speak the language personally. It wasn't passed down in my family. Because of that, I sometimes feel like a part of my culture identity is missing. Learning about Indigenous language loss and revitalization made me think more deeply about what it means to lose a language and how that loss can impact identity. Even though I don't personally relate to the language as part of my identity, this course helped me understand how powerful language can be in shaping who you are and how you connect to your culture. It made me wish I had more access to my own ancestral language. The return of Uluru. to the Angu people. The Angu people started fighting to get Uluru back in 1970s. For many years, the government controlled the land and used it mainly for tourism. After lots of effort, meetings, and legal work, the land was finally returned to the Angu people on October 26th, 1985. They agreed to share responsibility by leasing it back to the government for 99 years so they could manage it together. The cultural impact of this, Uluru is a very important and sacred place for the Angu people as part of their Taikupra, which includes their traditional laws, beliefs, and stories about how the world was created. Getting the land back allowed them to take care of it in their own way and stop people from doing disrespectful things like climbing it and continue their spiritual and cultural traditions on their own land. The environmental impact is how they use their traditional knowledge to take care of the area, including controlled burning and other methods that help protect plants, animals, and the landscape. Sovereignty and sustainability. The return of Uluru was a big step towards respecting Indigenous rights in Australia. It showed that giving land back to the traditional owners helped protect both culture and environment in the long term. The Land Back Movement. The Land Back Movement is a community-driven effort in Canada and the US to return the land that was taken from Indigenous peoples during colonization. People are using different strategies like protests, going to court, and working with land trusts to get land returned. So examples are the Haudenosaunee people protecting their land near Caledonia, Ontario, and the Lakota people still fighting to get the Black Hills back. The cultural impact is the land back helps Indigenous communities reconnect with the important places like sacred sites, hunting and fishing areas, and traditional land. It also helps bring back cultural knowledge, spiritual healing, and Indigenous languages that are closely tied to the land. The environmental impact is that when Indigenous communities care for the land, they often focus on protecting nature and fighting climate change. They use traditional knowledge to take care of the environment, which helps protect plants, animals, natural resources, and avoids damage from things like pipelines or logging. Sovereignty and sustainability. Land back is about self-determination, letting Indigenous peoples make decisions about their own land. It also shows that traditional ways of caring for the land are sustainable and good for the environment. The Sami reindeer herding land rights. So the legal battle, the Sami people who lived in Norway, Sweden, and Finland have been fighting for years to protect the land they use for reindeer herding. In 2021, they won an important court case in Norway, where the Supreme Court said building wind farms on their land broke their rights. The cultural impact. Reindeer herding is a big part of Sami life and culture. Having access to their land means they can continue old traditions like herding, holding ceremonies, and speaking the Sami language of all of which are connected to nature. The environmental impact is that they take care of the land in ways that are gentle and good for nature. Their herding methods help protect the animals, plants, and the land itself. They also stand up against harmful development like mining and wind farms that could damage the environment. Winning land rights in the court has helped the Sami keep control of their own land. Their traditional way of living is not only important for their culture, it also is a smart and sustainable way to live in the cold northern environment. Some similarities of these case studies is the legal recognition. Each case involves important legal action or negotiation that helped Indigenous peoples regain rights or control over their traditional lands. The cultural revival, reclaiming land, allows Indigenous communities to protect and practice their culture, traditions, languages, and spiritual connections to the land. Taking care of the land, they all use their traditional knowledge to look after the environment in ways that keeps plants and animals safe and stops damage. Being in charge, these movements help Indigenous communities make their own decisions about their land and live in the way they choose. Some questions I have for the audience are, why is language so important for Indigenous peoples' identity? What are some ways Indigenous communities are revitalizing their language? And what is the main goal of the Land Back movement? The answers to these are, languages preserve cultural knowledge, traditions, values, and communities' worldview. It's a way of passing on identity, history, and deep connection to land and ancestors. The second one, language immersion schools, elders teachings through storytelling apps, video lessons, and online dictionaries, cultural events and workshops, recording and documenting the language, pushing for official legal recognition. And the third one, to return land to Indigenous people so they can reconnect with their culture, practice traditions, protect the environment, and make decisions about their land and future. Thank you so much for listening. In conclusion, language is a key to cultural and personal identity, carrying stories, traditions, and connections to the community. Indigenous peoples work hard to revive their language as a way to heal and resist past harms. At the same time, land reclamation movements like the Return of Uluru, the Land Back Movement, and the Semi-Reindeer herding rights all restore Indigenous control, culture, and care for the environment. This research showed me that Indigenous survival is about reclaiming language, land, and identity together. Even though I don't personally speak the Indigenous language, I now see how important language and land are for healing and strengthening these communities. And these are my sources.